Okay, so today we're going to take a deep dive into this whole idea of going above and beyond. Unreasonable hospitality.
Yeah.
It's from the book Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara, and it's all based on the stuff you sent over.
Right.
So we're going to break down some of the big ideas, see what we think and
Mhm.
how this could apply to, well, anyone really.
Yeah, and I think one of the most interesting things that jumps out right away is this core concept of unreasonable hospitality itself.
Okay, so unreasonable hospitality.
Yeah, it's not just good service,
Mm,
It's about being really deliberate about going above and beyond.
really going the extra mile.
Much more than what's expected to really have an impact on people,
Yeah, like genuinely surprising them.
Yeah, like unexpected generosity almost.
Okay, so it's about adding that unexpected element of delight.
Right.
Now, the book argues this isn't just, you know, a nice thing to do.
Mm,
There are actually some real benefits for individuals and businesses if they adopt this mindset.
absolutely.
What are some of the things that stand out to you?
Well, one of the biggest things the book talks about is fostering loyalty.
Okay.
When you consistently exceed expectations, you basically turn customers or even just people into advocates for you.
Hmm.
They've had such a positive experience that they want to tell other people about it.
Right. Because they feel so valued.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That positive experience really resonates with them and it builds lasting connections.
Yeah, that makes sense. But as I was reading this, I couldn't help but wonder,
Yeah,
is unreasonable hospitality always, well, reasonable?
that's a great question.
Are there ever situations where it's just not practical?
Yeah.
Or even maybe it could backfire in some way?
Yeah, you're hitting on a really critical point.
Mm-hmm.
The book is really inspirational,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't totally address the challenges of keeping this up all the time.
Right. It's not easy being on all the time.
Exactly. For someone who's already really busy or stretched thin, trying to operate at this heightened level all the time could actually lead to burnout.
Yeah, burnout is a real risk.
Right. So
Yeah.
finding a balance is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So finding that sweet spot between going above and beyond, but also not burning yourself out,
Right.
which kind of brings us to another key idea from the book,
Mm-hmm.
anticipating needs.
Yes.
The book really stresses being proactive, almost like reading people's minds
Yeah.
and offering help even before they ask for it.
Exactly.
How does that factor into this whole unreasonable hospitality thing?
Well, if we look at the bigger picture,
Hmm.
anticipating someone's needs makes them feel really seen and understood.
Okay, yeah.
Like you're paying attention to them on a much deeper level.
Right. It's
No.
not just reacting to what they say they need.
Exactly. It's more about being attentive to what they might need before they even realize it themselves.
Right. It's almost like you're one step ahead.
Yeah, and that kind of care can be really powerful.
Yeah, it can really make someone feel special.
It builds a much stronger connection.
Yeah. But isn't there a danger of overdoing it
Yeah.
with anticipating needs?
Potentially, yes.
Like, could you cross a line or make assumptions that turn out to be wrong?
It's a good question, and it brings up the issue of being subtle.
Okay.
The book talks about paying attention to subtle cues,
Right.
but there's always that risk of misinterpreting those cues and kind of getting it wrong.
And making someone uncomfortable, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. I think the key is being suggestive rather than imposing.
Right. Offer help, but don't force it on them.
Right.
Okay. And then there's another crucial element that the book talks about,
Yeah.
personalization.
Hmm.
Making people feel like individuals,
Yes.
not just another face in the crowd.
Exactly.
And the book really highlights the power of tailoring experiences to each person. And remember those small details that make them feel special.
Right.
Why is that so important?
Well, I think the real power of personalization is that it creates a feeling of value.
Okay.
In a world that's increasingly dominated by automation.
Those human touches become really important.
Right.
When you can show someone that you've really seen them and heard them,
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference.
It makes them feel special, like they matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can really build long-term loyalty.
But how do you actually achieve that?
Yeah.
Genuine personalization,
Right.
especially at a larger scale.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a lot of people, how do you avoid feeling forced or fake?
That's the real challenge.
Right.
The book talks about empowering your team to make those individual connections
Okay.
and really cultivating a culture that values each person.
Okay, so it really has to be genuine.
It has to be. Authenticity is key. It can't be faked.
Right. People can spot a fake a mile away.
Yeah.
So basically, Unreasonable hospitality is advocating for a mindset
Mm-hmm.
of consistently exceeding expectations,
Yeah.
going that extra mile
Exactly.
through proactive care
Mm-hmm.
and those personalized interactions.
With the promise of stronger relationships and loyalty,
Exactly.
but also with the caveat that you have to be mindful of the practical limitations
Right.
and that you have to be genuine
Yeah,
in your approach.
absolutely.
So it's about finding a sustainable way to create those exceptional experiences.
That's it in a nutshell.
So to everyone listening, right, think about this. How could you apply this principle
Yeah.
of giving more than expected in your own life?
Right.
It doesn't have to be a grand gesture.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the most unreasonable hospitality comes from the smallest, most thoughtful details.
That's so true.
So think about that.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.